Hello, I'm Bernard Norcott-Mahany. I work at the Blueford branch at the Kansas City Public Library, and April is National Poetry Month, and during April I read poems aloud. This is also an Olympic year, and so this year I am reading poems by Pindar, who wrote epinician odes. So he went around, he was a poet for hire, he went around to wealthy people, because only the wealthy could actually compete in things like the Olympics and other athletic contests. They're the only ones who have the time to really train. I mean, there are a few instances of people who were actually not wealthy who were able to compete. But of course, if they won, he wouldn't be the one, singing their praises because, of course, he expected payment. So today's poem is a poem for Epharmostos of Opous, who won at wrestling in 468 at the Olympics. Now, Epharmostos apparently had a history of winning, and there's a reference to his victories prior to this. He apparently even competed as a boy when he should have been in boys wrestling with adult wrestlers. So this is a guy who's got a long career behind him and a fair amount of fame. In the poem, one of the things that Pindar makes a lot of at the end is he says that what you need to be an Olympic victor or any victor of any of these sort of big athletic competitions is not only the will and the training, but you also need a genetic predisposition, right? The gods need to be sort of behind you. If the gods aren't behind you, you're not going to succeed. So that's the thing. So, and maybe there's a hint of that because he talks about Heracles, he talks about the flood narrative, and then he talks about Patroclus. Now, Patroclus, the son of Menoetius, was a great warrior, but he was not Achilles. He was Achilles' friend. Achilles was the great warrior who had God-given talent. Patroclus probably worked as hard as Achilles and was a very good warrior, but he wasn't at that level. So that may be why the Patroclus thing is in here. So without further ado, I will get to this. There is a pun in here, which it's not going to really register, but where he tells the story of the flood. After the flood, Deucalion and Pyrrha repopulate the earth by throwing rocks over their shoulder. The rocks hit the ground and turn into people. And the Greek word for rock is laos, and the Greek word for people is laos. So there's sort of a pun there in the Greek. It can't really be replicated in English. So, Olympia, poem 9 for Epharmostos of Opous, which is a city in Attica, winner in the wrestling. Archilochus' tune that rang at Olympia, the threefold loud song of victory, was enough to guide to Cronus' hill Epharmostos in triumph with his own companions. But now, from the long-range muse's bow, sweep with arrows like these, Zeus of the scarlet thunderbolt and Elis' holy peak, which of old the Lydian hero Pelops won as Hippodamia's most beautiful dowry, and shoot a sweet feathered arrow at Pytho. The words you handle will not fall to the ground when you make the harp strings tremble for a man's wrestling, who comes from glorious Opus. Praise herself and her son. She belongs to right, and her daughter great in glory. Save your lawfulness. She flowers in acts of prowess by your stream Castalia and by Alpheus. Thence the pick of all garlands exalts in glory the Locrian's mother among her shining trees. On that dear city I kindle light with flaming songs, and faster than thoroughbred horse or ship on the wing I shall send this news to every quarter, if by fate's device I dwell in a choice garden of the Graces. They give delightful things, but 'tis their destinies that make men noble and wise. For how could Heracles have brandished a club in his hands against the trident when Poseidon stood over Pylos and drove on him, and Phoebus drove, shaking his silver bow? Nor did death keep the rod unshaken with which he brings down the bodies of men to the hollow street of the dying. Fling this tale away, my lips, for to revile the gods is an odious art, and to boast beyond measure is a tune for the song of madness. Babble not now of such things. Put aside every battle and war of immortals. Lend your tongue to Protogenea's town, where Zeus of the flashing thunderbolt decreed that Pyrrha and Deucalion should come down from Parnassus and set their first home. Without wedlock, they made a single race of a generation of stones. They were called people. Awake for them the liquid path of words, praise and old wine, but the blossom of songs that are new. They say that the power of waters flooded the black earth, but Zeus planned that an ebb should suddenly check the tide. From them were your brazen shield ancestors, begotten in the beginning, children of the daughters of Iapetus' stock and Cronus' mighty sons, kings in the land forever. Until the prince of Olympus plucked Opus' daughter from the Epeans' land, and slept with her secretly in the Maenalian hills, and brought her to Locris, lest the years overtake him with the doom of a childless breed. But his bride held the mightiest seed, and the hero was pleased when he saw the son she brought him, and named him after his mother's father, a man surpassing in beauty and action. He gave him the people and city to govern. To him came strangers from Argos and Thebes, Arcadians and Pisatans also, but above all newcomers he honored Menetius, Actor's son, and Aeginus, whose son went with the Atridae to Teuthras' plain, and stood with Achilles alone, when Telephus routed the strong Danae, and fell on the sea-going prows. He taught wise men to learn of Patroclus' valiant heart. Then Thetis' son begged him never in murderous war to take a post far away from his own man-conquering spear. May I find words to lead others and be fit to ride in the Muses' chariot. May daring and power follow me in abundance. By his prowess and office I come to champion Lepromachus' crowns at the isthmus, since both are conquerors in their task on a single day. Twice again was the joy of victory theirs in the gates of Corinth, and for Epharmostos in Nemea's valley. At Argos he won fame among men, and as a boy at Athens. And what a fight he put up at Marathon, when dragged away from the striplings with older men for the silver cups. In his fast, crafty twists he slipped not, but beat down his rivals. But to what cheers he went round the ring, being young and beautiful, and most beautiful what he had done. Then to the Parisian people his marvels were made known at the feast of Zeus Lycaeus. At Pellana he won the warm remedy against cold winds. Iolaus' tomb is witness, and Eleusis by the sea, to his glory. What nature gives is in every way best, but many have tried to win renown by taking lessons in prowess. If a god is not there, nothing is worse for being kept in silence, for some roads go farther than others. No single training will look after all of us. All skills are steep, but bring this prize and boldly roar aloud that by divine will this man has been born strong of hand, lithe of limb, with valor in his eyes, and by his victory, Aias Ilias' son, in your feast he has crowned our altar. So that was Olympia, number 9, for Epharmostos of Opous, victor in wrestling.